first thing you want to do is from the edge of your paper, mark 3 inches downwards. This 3 inches is going to serve as your starting line. Later on, you're going to see the importance of these 3 inches. So make sure to mark 3 inches from the edge of your paper downwards and rule a straight line, okay? When you're done with this, also mark 3 inches from this other side of your paper. So you can see where I'm placing my tape rule, and I'm marking 3 inches from the edge inwards. When you are done, rule a straight line down as well. Now, guys, the next thing we are going to do is to get our crotch line. The way to do this is to divide your hip into 4. My hip is 36 divided by 4. I have 9. So you're going to mark this 9 from your starting line upwards, downwards. Okay, so you can see I'm placing my tape rule on the starting line upwards and I'm marking 9 downwards. When I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and rule a straight line. This line is going to serve as my crotch line. Now, when you are done, go ahead and mark this same hip divided by 4 from the other starting line, okay? So you can see I'm placing my tape rule from this other starting line and I'm marking 9 inwards, okay? That's where you are creating something like a box. So I'm marking 9 inwards as well from the other starting line, and I'm going to rule a straight line. So you should have something looking like a box. When you are done, you can see what I have here. So this line here is my crotch line. Now, next thing is to get your hip line. And the way to do this is to come up by 2 inches from your crotch line, okay? So I'm going to mark 2 inches upwards across, and I'm going to rule a straight line, and this is going to serve as hip line. So this line here is my hip line, okay? While this other line on top is the waist line. All right, hope you are following. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to get our crotch curve. On your crotch line, you want to divide your hip by 20 and mark whatever you got from the starting line outwards. So this line is the starting line. On the crotch line, divide your hip by 20 and mark. On the hip line, you want to come out by 0.25, which is constant for all sizes. So now you're going to draw a curve that would go from your crotch line all the way to your hip line, and then it would connect to that center front line. So you can see I'm with my curve, and I'm going to connect from my crotch line to my hip and then to the center front line. Now you want to have something looking like this. This is your crotch curve, okay? The next thing you want to do is to mark your waist divided by 4. If you're not making use of that, just mark your waist directly and then connect to your hip line. But I'm going to be showing you how to insert that, okay? Now, my bust pan is 7 divided by 2, 3.5. So from my starting line, I'm going to mark 3.5. And then from the 3.5, I'm going to come out by 0.5 on both sides for my dart intake. When I'm done, I'm going to come down by 4 inches, which is constant. And I'm going to connect the dots to form my dart. Now, this is how to simply take your darts for your trousers, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and take my round waist measurements. My round waist is 26 divided by 4, 6.75. I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to go ahead and replace my dart. So please make sure to replace your darts after you've marked your waist round. Then from there, I'm going to connect all the way to my hip line. Now you want to have something looking like this when you are done. Now from the side, you want to come up by 0.5 inches, and from the center front area, go down by 0.5 inches on your waistline, and then connect a new waistline. Now this helps with the fitting around your waist area, okay? All right, so the next thing we are going to do is to mark the length of the trouser. Okay, so I'm marking the length of my trouser. The length of my trouser is 42 inches, and I'm going to mark that across. So I have to go ahead and add to my paper because it was shorter. So you can as well add if yours is not up to the length of your trouser. So I'm going to mark 42 inches across, and I'm going to rule a straight line and label that as the length of this trouser. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to get my crease line, okay? Now, to get your crease line, on your crotch line, you want to check what you have from the side to that point where you marked your hip divided by 20 initially. So you can see where I'm placing my tape rule, and then I'm going to divide into 2. I'm going to mark that at the center. And then what I have there is 5.5, okay? What I have from the side to that center is 5.5. I'm going to take that all the way down, and I'm going to rule a straight line. Now, when you are done, the next thing you want to do is to get your knee length, okay? Now, from the top of that crease line, you want to check what you have from there to the length of your trouser. And whatever you have, divide it into 2 equal parts, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and fold my tape rule in order to divide this into 2 equal parts. And I'm going to mark right there. And then this is not your knee length. When you do this, the next thing you want to do is to come up by 1.5, okay? Now, this normally helps if you are sewing this for somebody that you didn't take their measurements directly on. You can use this to get correct measurements of the person, okay? So when you come up by 1.5 from where you marked initially, this is going to serve as your knee length, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to take my knee round measurement. So whatever you have as a knee round, divide it into 4, okay? So my knee round is 16. Divided by 4, what I have is 4. So I'm going to mark 4 from the center of my crease line to the opposite sides, okay? So you can see I'm marking 4 from the center to the opposite sides. I have 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. The next thing you want to do is to connect from your crotch line all the way to your knee line. All right. So you can see the way I'm connecting this to that place where I marked 4. Then the next thing is at the center front area, you want to use your hip curve and then connect like so from the crotch line all the way to your knee length. Okay, so you can see what I have. Now I'm making a straight band, okay? It's just going to be straight. It's not going to be pencil mouth, like tight pencil mouth. So I'm going to take what I have for my knee round and I'm going to mark exactly that on my length. Now, if this is going to be like a tight pencil mouth, you want to just take around your ankle area, okay? Just take your measurement around your ankle area and then divide that into 4 on the length. Divide this into 4 and then you mark, okay? But if not, just take what you have for your knee length and mark right there at the length and then connect a straight line, just like I'm doing. Now you can see what I have here. This is it for the front pattern of your trouser. Now let's get into the pattern drafting of the back, okay? I'm going to be using a red marker just so that you are not confused, because we're going to be doing this inside the front pattern, okay? Now from the center front, you want to go in by 1 inch on your crotch line. This is constant for all sizes, okay? I'm going in by 1 inch, and then on the waistline from the center front, go in by 2 inches. And then connect from that your waistline to your crotch line, and just take it across all the way to the edge. You want to have something looking like this. Next thing we're going to do is to get our crotch curve for the back. Now to do this, you're going to be dividing your hip by 10. Mine is 3.6, okay? So I'm going to mark 3.6. Remember that you're placing your tape rule from the center back now. Like where you are seeing that my red marker is now the center back, okay? Now on the hip line from the center back, come out by 0.25 again, which is constant, and then just connect from the crotch all the way to the hip and all the way to the center back line, okay? Now your curve might not go all the way. You can use your free hand and do this. Now you want to have something looking like this when you are done, okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do is from my waistline of the back, I'm going to come up by 2 inches, okay? Now the reason we come up is to accommodate for the bum at the back. If you're on the bigger size, like hip 50 something, you can go up by 2.5, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is to mark my waist round plus my dart allowance. My waist round divided by 4 is 6.75 plus my dart 1 inch. So everything is 7.75. I'm going to be placing my tape rule at the place where I came up, and I'm going to mark 7.75 on my waistline. You can see how I just marked that, okay? So your tape rule is going to be slanted when you mark this. Now when you mark it, come up by 0.5 inches and then connect. Remember that for the front, we came up by 0.5 inches on the side. So when you mark your waist round, right there, come up by 0.5 inches before you connect for your back waistline, okay? Now, next thing I'm going to do is to place in my darts. So from the center back, I'm going to go in by 3.5, which is my bust pan. And then from there, I'm going to come out by 0.5 on both sides. And I am going to come down by 4. Your dart for your back is going to be a bit slanted because your center back line is slanted, okay? So follow that direction of your center back line when you are ruling your darts downwards, okay? Now this is it for my back dart. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my hip round. So on the crotch line from the center back now, I'm going to be marking my hip round divided by 4, which is 9. You can see where I just marked 9. Then on my hip line, I'm going to take what I have there at the back and I'm going to take it upwards to that hip line area, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from my waistline to my hip line and connect from my hip line to my crotch line. Now, when you get this, you are almost done, basically. So just make sure to get this upper part very well. The next thing I'm going to do is from the front, I'm going to come out by 1 inch, then connect for the back, okay? So on my knee line, I'm going to come out by 1 inch, and I'm going to do that for the both sides of the knee line. So I came out by 1 inch on both sides, and I'm going to connect. I'm connecting right now the center front also with my hip curve. On the length, come out by 1 inch on both sides as well and connect from your knee length all the way to the length. Now, this is what you're going to be having when you are done. This is for your front and your back trouser pattern. All right, you can see what it is looking like. Now, in case you're wondering, how are we going to be cutting out our front and our back separately on our fabric? We're going to be tracing out the front and the back from this pattern, okay? This is called your master pattern. So from here, you can trace out your front, your back. If you're making a short as well, you can just trace out the length of the short you are making. So I'm going to be tracing out my back pattern first, okay? The first thing I'm going to be tracing out are like the lines that are general to both front and back, like the waistline, the hip line, the crotch line, the knee length line. These lines are general to both front and back, also the length line as well. The next line I'm going to trace out is that starting line we marked. It is general for both front and back, so I am tracing that out as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to trace out my back, everything on red, like the marker on red, every part of it, I'm going to be tracing it all out. I just traced out my waistline. This is the center back, the crotch curve, the sides, all the way down to the length. Also the center front, I'm going to be tracing my back pattern. Every marker on red, I'm going to be tracing it out. So please be careful when you are tracing this. Make sure not to miss any part. So it's important to use different colors of marker when you are making this. Also, I'm tracing out my crease line because crease line is also general for both the front and back. Now I am done tracing out my back pattern and I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to make this visible. So guys, you can see what we have. This is it for the back pattern. You have it separately now. You can use this and do whatever you want to do with it. You can see what it's looking like. So you can go ahead and cut this out, or you can go ahead and as well, put your seam allowance before cutting. It's your choice. I'm going to be cutting this out without seam allowance. I can put my seam allowance on my fabric directly before cutting on my fabric, okay? So now I'm going to also insert to add my allowance when I'm cutting on my fabric. The next thing I'm going to trace is the front pattern, and as well I'm tracing out all the lines that are general to both the front and back, like the waistline, the hip line, the crotch line, the knee length line, the length at the down part, okay, the starting line as well, like all the lines that are general to both the front and back. Make sure to trace that out first before you start tracing the main back or the main front pattern. So I'm going ahead now to just trace out my front pattern. Please watch carefully and see what I'm doing. Make sure not to miss any parts when you are tracing yours. So guys, this is it for our front pattern. Sorry, I didn't know my camera wasn't recording when I traced this out, but yeah, you can see the lines a bit, and this is it when I finished tracing it out. So this is it for your front pattern. It is separate now from the master pattern, and you can use this to do whatever you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and add my seam allowance just to show you how you can add your seam allowance. So for the sides, I'm adding 1 inch for my seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to add 1 inch for my sides for my seam allowance. Also for the center front, I'm going to also add 1 inch for my seam allowance. On the waistline, I'm going to be adding half inch, just half inch for my seam allowance. This half inch is going to be used to is going to be joined to the band. Okay, so just half inch is enough. Also on the crotch line, on the crotch curve, half inch. Okay, you don't need more than half inch, just half inch is okay for the crotch curve. Next, at the length as well, you want to also add 1 inch for hemming, or if you want to have a very bold hemming, you can add more than 1 inch, like 2 inches. If you're going to be using hemming gum, you can add 2 to 3 inches as well. So I realized I didn't even have like enough space down there for my hemming allowance, so I just left it. But I believe that you understand how to add your allowances if you want to add it on your paper before cutting on your fabric, okay? The same way that you did on your paper, you will do directly on your fabric if you're adding allowance on your fabric, okay? So I'm going to cut out that space. It's not even up to 1 inch. I'm going to cut it out, and I'm just going to write add allowance so that it would remind me to do that on my fabric when I'm cutting on my fabric. So guys, that's basically it for how to draft your pattern, your trouser pattern for your front and for your back. You can see how beautiful this is looking, and this is for a straight fitted pants. Now guys, this is your master pattern. You don't need to cut on this. You can just trace out your front, your back, your shorts, anything that you want to make. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like this video because it would help me to get to as many people as possible. Thank you guys for watching. Comment down below any questions that you have as well. See you on the next one.